Hello dear friends, glad to be back. Today is 12th of November, Sunday, so I hope you have a great day and wish you successful upcoming new week. Now it's 12 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Also dear friends, today 7 o'clock in the evening on main YouTube channel I will have a live stream, Sunday live stream, traditional, and hopefully you will find time to join the conversation. Of course I will make announcement on my community page here on YouTube and also on my Telegram page about this live stream. And well, before I continue, let me also note that only way we can fight back this immensely unfair and aggressive YouTube's algorithm, dear friends, is more likes and comments. I may be mistaken, but my understanding is that more likes and comments my videos have, more chances are that we will be able to reach wide audience. So if you can, please click that like button and leave one or as many comments as you like about anything, really. I will be immensely grateful for this support. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And according to reports from Russian media outlets, during the previous 12 to 24 hours, there was no significant changes on majority of the sectors of the front line. Only sector where we have some important changes, it's Avdiivka direction, where according to several reports in Russian segment of internet, Stepove, this small village right on the northern western part of Avdiivka, did become under at least partial control of Russian armed forces, although at least for this moment I did not see any photo or video confirmation of this. There are some videos that circulating in internet about fighting in the Stepove, but it's hard to tell which side controls which part. Although there are some reports that Russian side managed to establish full control over the settlement and now are beginning to prepare ground for a further offensive in direction of Berdichi. This also quite small village here, and this is it when it comes to more or less significant changes on the front line, territorial wise. In all the other sectors of the front line there are artillery duels, mainly local scale skirmishes and local scale offensive operations that hardly can be called breakthroughs. So operational pause mainly are holding all along the front line, with that small exception when it comes to Stepove and situation around Avdiivka, where Russian armed forces on daily basis improving their current positions. There are so many news to share, so I will continue with additional news if I may. So TASS news agency is reporting that Russian air defense systems did shut down Ukrainian drone over the Belgorod region early hours this morning. No reports about casualties on the ground or any more or less significant damage. Also, by the way, yesterday Russian media did report that in Ryazan region freight train was derailed with the 19 carriages. That's a word, isn't it? Or wagons. One machinist, one member of a crew of this locomotive, this train, was slightly injured according to some reports, and medics are providing all the necessary assistance. And according to preliminary data of investigation, train was derailed as a result of some sabotage activity. So I guess Kiev regime is still has some assets inside Russia, and those assets are actively trying to sabotage a Russian side, including on a railway. Also Russian officials reported that this train was not transporting toxic substances, so there is no danger for ecology in the local area. But fact itself is of course interesting. This is pure terrorist attack, by the way. But when it comes to Kyiv regime, at this point, nobody is surprised that Zelensky and his associates are conducting terrorist activity. They are terrorists, man. Mass murderers and terrorists. RIA Novosti is reporting that company of Russian armed forces from Dnipro group of forces, which is operating in Kherson region, will receive some state orders for their operations in Kherson region. And well, this company is exactly the unit which did conduct successful fight against units of 36 brigade of Ukrainian armed forces, and during those clashes, Russian military personnel forced 11 Ukrainian militaries to lay down arms and surrender. So they will receive some state orders for this bravery during that fight. And overall, by the way, as I said, in Kherson region, I know there are some channels, some commentators that believe that Ukrainian forces are achieving some success in Kherson direction, but I have to disagree with this opinion. My understanding is that Kherson region, left bank of the Kherson region, is a trap for Ukrainian armed forces, and more and more units Kyiv regime will send on the left bank. It more easier Russian side will decimate these units, because concentration of Ukrainian forces will increase, and because Kyiv regime is increasing concentration of Ukrainian forces on the right bank of the Kherson region. Also, Russian side did find it quite easy to find out points of locations of Ukrainian military personnel and equipment, and on daily basis we are seeing reports about targeting of those points of concentration. So Kherson region is definitely a trap. It's working like a trap already, and we have many informations about it in confirmation of that. So I don't think this activization of Ukrainian forces in Kherson direction poses any threat to Russian side. Basically, this is self-imposed damage by Ukrainian forces, because they are increasing their concentration on Kherson direction and allowing Russian air force, Russian long-range artillery, and Russian drone operators to take down bigger, more or less, big number of Ukrainian units during the strikes. But anyway, let's continue. And exactly about Kherson region, by the way, TASS news agency is reporting that during one of the strikes on warehouse on the right bank of the Kherson region, more than 40 Ukrainian military personnel was killed and wounded, and also more than 10 military vehicles. Military vehicles, and that's just one point of concentration of Ukrainian forces. And Russian side conducts such strikes on daily basis in many times, not just on the left bank, but mainly on the right bank of the Kherson region. So it's definitely a trap. That's my reading of picture anyway. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces did try yet again to conduct some local-scale counteroffensives in Kupiansk direction, and to regain initiative on any of the areas in this northern sector. And as a result of clashes, Ukrainian units lost up to 50 military personnel. Also, Bradley infantry fighting vehicle and M113, M113 armored personnel carrier. Also, 3 drones, Ukrainian drones, were destroyed in this area, and several artillery pieces, including Polish Krab self-prepare gun. So this type of operations are taking place on daily basis, really, and I do report about it, that Kiev regime, for whatever reason, sends more and more units in these suicidal counteroffensives, and without achieving anything, really. Russian side is ready, and results always are the same. Ukrainian units, one by one, are decimated while trying to conduct some local scale offensives. Let's continue. RIA Novosti is also reporting that during the strikes in Kyiv region, by the way, in Kyiv region, Ukrainian munition depot was destroyed. This time, this munition depot was for 43rd Mechanized Brigade of Ukrainian Armed Forces. And also, by the way, also we have a report here that Russian air defense systems did manage to shut down MiG-29 fighter jet in Zaporozhye region. I remind you, dear friends, that on 10th of November, if I'm not mistaken, Russian Defense Ministry did share information about combined number of casualties on part of Ukrainian armed forces in time period of from 4th to 10th of November, according to which during that week Ukrainian forces lost more than 5,000 military personnel killed and wounded on all the sectors of the front line combined. Also more than 300 military equipment, pieces of military equipment, from tanks and armored personnel carriers to artillery systems, and also bunch of fighter jets. One Su-27, if I remember correctly, 2 MiG-29s, and 2 Su-25 attack planes. And yesterday, by the way, Ukrainian side lost yet another MiG-29. I wonder how many, when Ukrainian Air Force is gonna run out of planes. I mean, it will happen at some point, but sheer number of planes that Ukraine did operate since during the special military operation is quite astonishing, really. NATO member states did a good job to finding the Soviet airplanes worldwide and to sending them to Kiev regime. They were quite successful in it, unfortunately for Russian side. But at some point, they will run out of planes for sure. I'm anticipating reports about destructions of Su-24s, last remnants of Ukrainian Air Force, because it's Su-24 frontline bombers that are launching Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles usually. And there are some reports that MiG-29s also were used for these purposes. I cannot know for sure. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting about very interesting statements that permanent representative of Russian Federation in the UN, Vasily Nebezhny, made during his speech in the UN. And according to him, and this information may become surprised for many people in the Western world. So according to Nebezhny, Russia has 5 million Ukrainian refugees, and over 730,000 of them are children. So maybe society in the West thinks that Ukrainian citizens move only in the direction of Western states, and only they have Ukrainian refugees in Poland, in Germany, in France, Italy, in Ireland or UK, or just name it, just in any country in the Europe. But 5 million Ukrainian citizens moved to Russia, by the way. And among them, 730,000 are kids, and Russia is providing all the necessary support and help for those refugees. And I remind you, dear friends, that according to decisions of Russian government, Ukrainian citizens are eligible to apply for Russian citizenship in a simplified way, much more simplified way than for any other for citizens of any other countries. So Russia does as much as it can to support Ukrainian citizens, Ukrainian refugees in Russia. And also, dear friends, Nebezhnya did share during his speech in UN also very important information that dozens of Ukrainian citizens that are refugees in Europe, in European states, did contacted Russian embassies, Russian side, and asked for help, because social services in number of countries are taking their kids away because they are unable to meet demands when it comes to life conditions, which is crazy, by the way. This is our refugees, and the states of EU should provide refugees. If they are receiving refugees, then should provide conditions for living also. And in some areas, it seems like this difficult situation of refugees have been used by local social services to take kids from Ukrainian families, and they did try and ask for help Kyiv regime, but they didn't receive any, and now they are desperate, I guess, and they are asking Russian Federation for support. And Moscow does what it can. These statements in the UN, by the way, already some help, and I guess governments of those countries in EU will pay attention to these developments, and hopefully kids will be returned to their families, and such instances will decrease in numbers. Well, I don't even know what else Moscow can do in this case, because those Ukrainian families, they are citizens of Ukraine. If they apply on Russian citizenship, and if they will receive Russian citizenship, then Moscow, of course, will have additional tools to fight for those families and their rights and for their kids. But while they are Ukrainian citizens, of course, primarily it's Kyiv's. It's a Kyiv that's supposed to be active when it comes to protection of its citizens, but Zelensky's regime just don't care. That's it. But as we can see, Moscow does what it can. From statements have been made from UN, and hopefully it will help. Let's continue. RT is reporting that. Well, according to Pentagon, by the way, they only have 1 billion of US taxpayers left for Ukraine. Washington is about to run out of funds allocated for Ukraine and will need to begin reducing military aid to Kyiv, the Pentagon told journalists on Thursday. The Defense Department has urged Congress to break and impose and green light. Basically, the Defense Department is asking or urging Congress to greenlight the White House request for 106 billion aid bundle, in which 60-something billion is for Ukraine, 14 or 15 billion for Israel, also some billions for Taiwan, and formally for border security, although we all know that Biden's administration definitely don't cares about US security, by the way, and the US borders. It's just too obvious. It's just attempt from White House to play on emotions of public, and they are combining this package where there is Taiwan, there is Israel, Ukraine together, and also border security topic. But at least for now, US congressmen, Republicans by the way, are not happy with this package, and they did approve separate package, aid package for Israel for 14 or something billion, but Democrats in the Senate blocked that aid package, and they are demanding this 106 billion package to be approved. Some trade is going on among US lawmakers and the White House. Let's see how it will end, but I'm quite sure eventually dozens and dozens of billions will be, of course, allocated for Kyiv regime, because my understanding is that this is last big paycheck from Ukrainian story for US military industrial complex and US corrupt officials. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that EU is to bypass member states when it comes to Ukrainian aid veto. This was reported by media. So EU will be able to grant Ukraine 50 billion with euro, which is 53.4 billion US dollars in aid, even if Hungary votes it. Reuters reported on Friday, citing unnamed officials in the bloc. The European Commission has proposed giving Ukraine further grants and loans to help in the conflict with Russia. Although Hungary and Slovakia voted the move last month, the EU's 27 members will next vote on the 50 billion aid package at the summit in Brussels in December. If Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has repeatedly called for ceasefire and peace talks in Ukraine, vetoes the move, again, the bloc could circumvent this by asking each of the EU governments to set up their own aid package for Kyiv. Two EU officials told Reuters. So basically what Brussels is gonna do, if and when Hungary and Slovakia will veto this 50 billion package again, Brussels will begin not just asking but demanding basically from other EU member states to come up with their own aid package, separate aid package, and send it to Kyiv regime. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure that this will work. I'm not quite sure that this will work because I don't know. My understanding is that societies in the West are more and more awake to reality, and I don't think they will be happy if their own governments come up with multi-billion aid packages now for EU. When Brussels does this, many people maybe don't see connections with Brussels aid packages, because in Brussels hands are accumulating money from all the EU member states for different through different programs. But when it comes to governments, local governments, EU member state governments' decisions, in that case, of course, people do see associate themselves with those money, because it's much closer to them, let's say it this way. So maybe, sorry that time to time I find it difficult to explain what I want to say, but maybe societies in France, in Germany, in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Poland find it difficult to approve, to agree that additional billions and billions of taxpayers' money will be sent to Kyiv regime. Let's see. I doubt that this idea of Brussels bureaucrats will work. Let's see. RIA Novosti is also reporting, by the way, that, well, EU bureaucrats were forced to acknowledge that they will be unable to fulfill promise that they give to Kyiv regime about deliveries of 1 million artillery shells before March of 2024. They just don't have shells. They don't have industrial capacities at this point to produce that many shells, which is good news, by the way. Less weapons and munition will reach Kyiv regime earlier. This conflict will end. So great news if EU is unable to deliver million shell to Kyiv regime. But anyway, TASS news agency is reporting that Borrell, by the way, formerly head of EU diplomacy, did said that Ukraine would not be able to achieve victory over the Russia in foreseeable future. Well, in other words, basically Borrell and EU bureaucrats are beginning to share with public or prepare public for inevitable, which is Russian victory over the Western so-called elites, because Ukrainian side would not be able to achieve victory over the Russia, not in foreseeable future, not ever. It's just impossible, because it's just impossible. And of course, Borrell knows this, but he is and many other EU bureaucrats are hostages of their own propaganda, and they are now forced basically to little by little, step by step, prepare society to inevitable, which is Russian victory, unconditional Russian victory. And that's why he is coming up with this statement that Ukraine will not win. Of course, man, Kyiv regime never had any chances, but it was these Western so-called elites that were pushing this narrative that Ukraine must and should achieve victory over Russia on the battlefield. And under this narrative, basically they sacrificed over 500,000 Ukrainian citizens, by the way. And even more, and millions, 500,000 Ukrainian citizens died during this confrontation, and millions of Ukrainian citizens have been forced to become refugees. Millions of them are in Russia, millions of them are in the Western states. So these Western leaders basically destroy lives of millions of Ukrainians, entire Ukraine, really. With the exception of these neo-Nazis and their puppets in Ukraine that are running and ruining that show. They become billionaires. Yes, Zelensky and his associates, they become multi-billionaires, by the way. While vast majority of Ukrainian citizens lost their livelihood because of this Western war on Russia, or war of Western elites on Russia. RIA Novosti is reporting, by the way, that Prime Minister of Hungary, Orban, yet again, spoke with the media, and come up with straightforward statements that Ukraine is not ready to conduct negotiations to become a member of EU in no way. It is no topic in which Ukraine is ready or applying for standards of EU. So there is not even a topic to discuss, really. And of course, Brussels is not going to like it. But what they can do, man, Orban is, as I understand, most popular politician in Hungary, and his government has full support of Hungarian society. And as long as it is this way, then nothing Brussels can do, really. And next topic, of course, escalation in the Middle East. RIA Novosti is reporting that Arab nations, Arab states, and states of Muslim world had, as you know, had a gathering in the Riyadh yesterday in Saudi Arabia, and they come up with combined statement, and they basically said that peace or improvement of relationships with Israel is possible, but for this Israel has to end the occupation. Israel has to end its occupation. Well, I don't think it will work, unfortunately, and many strong statements was made during that gathering in Riyadh by many delegations. But at this point, I don't think Netanyahu's government is listening to anybody, with the exception of Washington and London. So unfortunately, escalation will only continue. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Israel conducted yet another strikes on Syria. Who is surprised at this point? Nobody is surprised. Israel is targeting not just Gaza Strip and not just the West Bank, but also Syria and Lebanon on daily basis. And one may wonder, is Israel is provoking enlargement of further escalation, or what is the plan of Netanyahu here? Why they are shelling constantly their neighbors? I don't know, man. I don't know. One thing is obvious. Netanyahu's government is involved there by impunity with which they are conducting war crimes in the Palestine and crimes against humanity. And I guess at this point, maybe they are not afraid to provoke conflict, not just with Syria but also with Lebanon. And there are very strong words we can hear from Netanyahu's government, and threats basically that they will do with Beirut, capital of Lebanon, what they are doing with Gaza. So they are threatening Lebanon with and Lebanese people with extermination, because that's what they do in Gaza. They killing thousands and thousands of civilians on daily basis. So unfortunately, things only escalating in the Middle East. And when it comes to map, by the way, Syria is here, and this area, by the way, it's a Golan Heights, part of Syria that is occupied by Israel. And these blue dots are Israeli strikes on Lebanon. So Israel now operates actively in two directions. One is the Gaza Strip here. At this point, main military operations are taking place in the northern part of Gaza Strip and inside the Gaza city itself and surrounding areas. But it's only a matter of time, I guess, and they will begin pushing towards south. And that's exactly the moment when Egypt will be forced to make a decision to open border and receive hundreds of thousands of refugees. And Israel is very active also in the northern direction. And just look at this, man. They are shelling southern Lebanon on daily basis, dozens of times, basically provoking Hezbollah. And at some point, I'm afraid things may really escalate in this sector also. And if Hezbollah becomes fully involved in this conflict, then, well, of course, US and other NATO member states will begin pounding positions of Hezbollah. That's why US had so many aircraft carriers in this region, strike groups and ground forces also, and in the Middle East. And if Hezbollah is fully engaged in this conflict, then I guess it will be only a matter of time when some provocations will be conducted against Iran. And at that point, world will have a regional conflict in the Middle East in its hands. on its hands. Let's hope things will not escalate this much, but it is certainly possibility if we take in account these actions of Netanyahu's government. Thus, news agencies reporting that State Department, by the way, U.S. State Department believes that the casualty numbers in the Gaza Strip may be significantly higher than officially reported by Palestinian Health Ministry. And this is certainly a possibility also because nobody knows how many people are under ruins of buildings in the Gaza Strip. And at this point, latest numbers that I see is more than 11,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza Strip, according to official estimations. Also, dear friends, RT is reporting, probably you do remember that I did report it several days ago about statements of Netanyahu in which he said that Israeli intelligence did help Brazil to avoid some or to neutralize some terrorist threats from Hezbollah in Brazil. And I was skeptical about this news straight away, and I said, no, let's wait how will Brazilian side reacts on this information. And we have statement, by the way, from Justice Minister of Brazil, and let me read a few sentences here. So, Brazilian authorities have warned against jumping to conclusion after Israel claimed to have foiled the terrorist attack by an Iran-funded Hezbollah cell in the South American country. The case is ongoing and must not be used by outside governments to promote their own interests, Brazilian Justice Minister Flavio Dino said. So Brazil is not happy about statements of Netanyahu. Case is ongoing, and I was skeptical about Hezbollah's attempts to conduct some terrorist activity in the Brazil anyway, initially, and I'm skeptical now. Although, by the way, one of the members of our community did share with me some information, and I'm grateful for this, that maybe Hezbollah or some groups that are affiliated with Hezbollah or have some connections with Hezbollah may were involved in drug trafficking from Latin America, in Latin American states, and possibly Israeli intelligence try to distract these activities, and that's why these some groups that may have some connections with Hezbollah was planning to retaliate on Israeli assets in Brazil. Well, if those groups that have any affiliation with Hezbollah are truly involved, and or even Hezbollah is directly or indirectly involved in drug trafficking, and they had some issues with Israeli intelligence in that matter, and plan to retaliate, I guess it's criminal activity in that case, not terrorist activity, because drug trafficking, at least for now, not designated as a terrorist activity. It's a criminal activity. So in that case, I may see some logic behind the statements that Hezbollah was involved in some operations in Brazil. But yet again, if there is any connection with the drug cartels and so on. But yet again, we have to wait until Brazilian side will make some statements, because it's Brazil after all, and Brazilian officials, Brazilian security services are conducting investigation, and as you can clearly see, currently they are not happy that Netanyahu did try to use Brazil to promote its own agenda, in this case against Hezbollah, by the way. And to be honest, I don't think Hezbollah directly are involved in any drug trafficking, although some groups with connections with Hezbollah may be, because drug trafficking is extremely profitable criminal activity, and many groups probably are trying to to have some additional income or finances probably are trying to, you know, be involved in these dodgy operations. But anyway, let's see what the investigation will say finally. IT is reporting that well, pro-Palestinian crowds flooded London street once again yesterday, and according to some reports, at least 300,000 people marched in the British capital on Saturday, demanding the immediate ceasefire in Gaza. London's Metropolitan Police reported at least 126 arrests, aiming clashes with counter-protesters, in which 9 officers were injured. So there were some counter-protests also, much smaller in the scale, and there was some clashes. But well, these pro-Palestinian protests definitely are becoming something to be reckoned with, I guess, by local governments. Phenomenon to be, you know, reckoned with by local governments, and maybe these massive demonstrations in UK, in France, by the way, in the US, maybe this will influence position of governments of these countries. And I remind you, maybe it already did, by the way, because yesterday and day before, French president, for example, Macron, did come out with very strong statements against Israeli military action in Palestine. He was not really direct or too direct, but basically he was, you know, agitating for peace. And was quite critical of methods that have been used by IDF. And of course, we are talking about Macron. I mean, he may say today one thing and then tomorrow another. I mean, after all, it's Macron. You cannot take him seriously. But who knows? Maybe these demonstrations will have overall influence on not just on single individuals in the governments, but over the ruling elites. And in that case, maybe Europe will become a little more proactive when it comes to pushing Israel towards peace settlement. At this point, it's unlikely, really, because, as I said, until as long as Washington and London are in support of everything that this Netanyahu's government does, Israel leadership has no incentive to change anything. But let's see, maybe these demonstrations will, you know, influence London and Washington also. And several more news. How long is this update? It's already 43 minutes. Okay, several more news, dear friends, and I will end this update now. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian warships Admiral Tribuz and Admiral Panteliev did enter Bangladeshi port city Chittagong, and this happened first time in the last 50 years, by the way. Last time Russian warships, or at that point Soviet warships, were in Bangladeshi waters, in this port, Chittagong. It was after Bangladesh received its independence from Pakistan in 1971, and port area was heavily mined, and Soviet militaries did help Bangladesh to demine territory. And since that time, this is the first visit of Russian warships in Chittagong. And well, it's great to see significant steps forward when it comes to relationships between Bangladesh and Russia. I remind you, dear friends, that just recently nuclear fuel was transferred to begin operating on one of the nuclear blocks in a nuclear power station, which is built by Russia in Bangladesh. ties are good, relationships are good between the countries, which is great, and improving constantly. And when it comes to these warships itself, well, when I read this information, I was thinking maybe by the way, these warships will continue their way towards Middle East. So they are here now in Bangladesh. This is a Chittagong, by the way. And maybe these Russian warships will join Chinese warships that are in the Middle East area. That's a possibility. Let's monitor the situation. And these ships, by the way, are big and are armed with long-range anti-ship missiles. So, they're quite a force to be reckoned with. And let's see how the situation develop. I would not be surprised if these ships will continue their movement towards Middle East. And also, by the way, TASS news agency is reporting that Miller, head of Gazprom, did made a statement that even though Alexei Miller, by the way, head of Gazprom, did made statements that even though some European states or many European states are making statements that they finally stopped buying Russian gas and they are now operating on other gas from other sources, in reality, many of those countries are buying exactly the Russian gas, and it's just a political game, media game, that they managed to find some other sources of energy, when it's reality they are still buying Russian gas. And this is true, by the way. Russian pipeline gas until now is on daily basis some 30 or 40 million cubic meters of Russian gas is moving towards pumped to Europe through pipeline that goes through Ukraine. And also Russian LNG is a major source of energy for many European states. Spain, Denmark, France, they are buying millions of tons of Russian liquefied natural gas also. Also, TASS news agency is reporting, dear friends, that Finland did come up with the statements about this damaged Baltic connector gas pipeline, which lies on the Baltic Sea, under the Baltic Sea. And according to investigations, not far away from damaged pipeline, anchor was found, which may belong to Chinese ship New Polar Bear. So now Finland is accusing this Chinese ship that they did damage this pipeline, intentionally or not, but this is the new approach of Finland to accuse China and probably to demand compensation for all the works that will be done to rebuild that pipeline, damaged fragment of pipeline. I don't think China will accept this, but let's see how the situation develops. I just remind you, dear friends, that initially, almost straight away, by the way, many EU bureaucrats began to blame Russia. That's how Russophobic they are, that they, whatever happens, first thing in their mind is it's Russia. Pipeline was damaged somewhere in the Finland, pipeline that no one cares about, not in Russia at least. Oh, it's a Russia. There is snow somewhere, and of course it's Russia, because, I mean, how else? It's rain too much in some other place. It's also Russia. There is no tap water in some cities. For whatever reason, it's Russia again. I mean, that's the level of degradation of the so-called elites in the West, man. Whatever they don't like, it's always Russia to be blamed. idiots, man. Anyway, hopefully societies in the Western states will wake up faster, a majority of societies, because there are plenty of well-informed citizens in the Western world, and they are doing their best to serve their societies and their countries. And first of all, they are doing this by trying to inform society, because better people are informed, better decisions they are making. But it's just not enough. More people need to be awake. And let's continue several more news. International Monetary Fund did upgrade China's growth outlook, and according to this institution, Chinese economy is set to grow 5.4% this year, which is huge, by the way. Of course, during the previous decades, Chinese economy were growing like 10, 12%, even more. It was a huge jump year by year, but bigger Chinese economy did become, and it's a major economy now in the world, isn't it? This growth will, of course, grow numbers, percentage points will decrease. It's just inevitable. But still, by the way, this huge economy to grow 5.4% in a year, that's a great result in my understanding. That's a great result. I would like to see 5.4% growth of Russian economy, you know. And when it comes to Russian economy, dear friends, finance ministry, if I'm not mistaken, did come up with latest forecasts, and according to them, according to numbers of finance ministry or Ministry of Economic Development, Russian economy in 2023 will grow about 3%. So 3% is also not bad, really, especially for Russia in circumstances when Western ruling class is conducting this sanctions war on Russia and are trying everything they can to somehow distract development of Russian businesses and the Russian economy. And this is gonna be last news for today's first update. TASS News Agency reported yesterday, by the way, this is yesterday's news, or even day before yesterday, that Russian Progress MS-24 spacecraft did change orbit of International Space Station to and move this station for several hundred meters up to avoid space junk, space debris. So well, good news. Operation was successful, and ICC was in no harm, out of harm's way. And I want to share this information, dear friends, just to remind you that there was times when world states were more cooperative, and International Space Station is an example of that. It's an international project, and Russia still part of it, major part of this project. But unfortunately, examples of such cooperation are less and less nowadays, and even International Space Station will, even cooperation in the space, by the way, probably will stop between Russia and Western states in many directions after International Space Station will expire its data. It will happen before this end of this decade, I believe, and International Space Station after that will enter atmosphere, Earth, and will be dumped somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. And after that, ICC will cease to exist, I'm afraid we will have even less examples of cooperation between Russia and at least Western states, by the way. And Western world day by day, year by year, decade by decade, will probably become more and more isolated from rest of the world, because at this point there is a Western world ruled by these crazies, and there is the rest of the world. That's reality. And unfortunately, because of these crazies in elites of in the position of elites of the Western world, societies, ordinary people, experiencing difficulties. But it is what it is. I will end this update now. Hopefully you will find this video interesting, and if so, please consider to click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram are interesting, useful, and deserves to exist, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links on this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. I remind you, dear friends, that 7 o'clock this evening, Moscow time, I will have live stream, and I will be immensely grateful if you will find time to join the conversation. Main topics of conversation will be Ukrainian crisis, of course, situation in the Middle East. I will share with you additional news that will be reported by Russian media during the day, and also I have some small announcement to make, and of course exchange of opinions, questions and answers, Q&A in real time. Okay, this is it for now. Have a great day and take care.